It started with an invitation. One of those innocent, glossy ones you find tucked inside an envelope with a little gold foil sticker sealing the flap. Dinner for 3. Dress sharp. That's it. No RSVP. No signature. Just that. But it smelled like her perfume. And that was enough. Now, my wife wasn't the type to play games, at least not the ones with rules. But she was, let's say, creative in how she broke the news that she'd traded in the old model. I thought maybe we were going to a therapist, or a couple's dinner with friends to talk about whatever people who are drifting apart pretend not to notice. Instead, I walk into a dim-lit steakhouse where she's already seated, next to him. "Oh, good. Logan," she says, like I'm the latecomer to a team meeting. "This is Chase. I've mentioned him." Yes, she had. In passing, over pasta. In the tone you use when you're trying not to sound too impressed. He's brilliant. So supportive. He just gets me. Right. Like a tax write-off gets an accountant. Chase is one of those guys who looks like he sprouted from a gym bench and was raised on raw almonds and self-help books. He doesn't shake my hand. He sizes me up like I'm a donation he doesn't want to accept. Then, mid-ribeye, Chase leans back, sips his red wine, and says calmly, "You've had a good run, Logan. But this is where the baton gets passed." I blink. "Are you serious?" He smirks. "I'm just saying. You've been holding a place for her. I'm here to upgrade the seat." My wife doesn't speak. She smiles, sips her wine like it's communion. That's when I realize this isn't dinner. It's a transfer of power, and I'm the one being downsized. The rest of that dinner was a blur. Chase talked like a man auditioning for a role he'd already cast himself in. She just sat there, nodding, laughing at all the wrong times. The kind of laugh you hear when someone's already moved on and they just forgot to take their body with them. I didn't flip the table. I didn't storm out. No dramatic scenes for me. I just asked the waiter for the check. Paid it. Alone. Didn't even split it. Let Chase enjoy the meal, but the bill was mine. On the way home, my hands never left 10 and 2 on the wheel. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just drove. When I pulled into the driveway, her car wasn't behind me. I guess Chase was giving her a ride. Or maybe she was giving him one. Either way, the house was still. Too still. I walked into the bedroom and noticed something subtle. Not missing suitcases. Oh no, that would have been too obvious. Just fewer hangers. One less perfume bottle. And that white blouse she wore on our anniversary? Gone. She had packed with the precision of a surgeon. Like someone who knew exactly what parts to remove from a body without leaving blood. On the bed, there was a note. One sentence. Written on the back of a receipt from the same steakhouse. "I didn't mean for you to find out like that." The apology without the actual apology. A classic. I stood there, reading it again and again until the letters blurred into ink blotches. But I didn't tear it up. I folded it, slipped it into the drawer next to my cufflinks. Because something told me this wasn't over. Not even close. The next morning, I did something radical. I went to work. Not because I'm a hero, or because I thought I could focus, but because the office had walls, and none of them smelled like her. It turns out heartbreak doesn't take a sick day, but it does clock in when you're standing at the copier trying not to punch the laminated teamwork poster. By noon, my best friend, Matt, walked into my office with 2 coffees and an expression that said, "I know." "You hurt?" I asked, sipping the drink that was suddenly too bitter. He nodded. "It's all over. One of Chase's buddies posted a picture last night. Tagged her. Caption said, 'Finally official.' Of course. Because nothing says 'healthy new beginning' like an Instagram soft launch of your affair. Matt didn't say, 'I told you so,' even though he could have. He was the one who'd warned me months ago. Something about the way she says his name, man, it's too careful. Like someone hiding a bruise. Instead, Matt just asked, 'You okay?' I nodded the way men do when they're not. That night, I went through the house like an archaeologist. Not angry, just curious. I found all the little clues I'd ignored before. A hotel receipt tucked into a book she never read, a voicemail she forgot to delete, a necklace I never bought her. Evidence. Enough to convict. Or bury. I sat on the couch with all of it laid out like a courtroom exhibit. And for the first time since the dinner, I let myself laugh. Because it was absurd how obvious it all was. Like someone left the twist ending on the back of the DVD case, and I still watched the whole movie pretending I didn't know how it ended. But here's the thing. I wasn't sad anymore. I was focused. The first time I saw them together after the dinner, it wasn't planned. They were at the farmer's market. The one she and I used to go to on Sundays, back when brunch meant more than damage control and avocado toast. I had gone there for tomatoes. I left with resolve. Chase was wearing sunglasses like he was auditioning to be seen. She had on that floral dress I bought her last summer in Santa Monica. The one she said made her feel like a painting someone actually wanted to hang. Funny. Now it just looked like camouflage. They were holding hands, laughing at something he said, probably a joke I told her a year ago. You'd think I'd feel gutted, watching her slip into a new life like it came with instructions. But all I felt was cold. Not numb. Cold. The kind of cold that comes before a storm. I ducked behind a booth selling overpriced honey and watched them sample olives and pretend they were the kind of people who didn't lie for sport. He kissed her temple. She leaned in like it meant something. The vendor smiled. Everyone played along. I left before I made a scene. Not because I couldn't, but because I wasn't ready. Yet, that night, I pulled out a box from the top shelf of the closet. One of those black matte things that look like they should hold photos or regrets. Inside, journals, receipts, USBs, old passwords. The kind of things people forget you have until it's too late. Now, I wasn't planning revenge. Not then. I was planning understanding. I wanted to know why. I needed to dissect it, cut it open and label every organ of betrayal. See, it's not enough to know they cheated. You need to know when, where, how many times, and most importantly, how dumb they thought you were. Because that tells you everything. Turns out, she started slipping a year ago. Business trips that weren't. Late-night work sessions that ended 2 towns over. I found a receipt from a hotel spa in Palm Springs dated the same weekend she said she was helping her mom with her taxes. Unless her mother started getting deep tissue massages under a pseudonym, something didn't add up. Then came the texts. I had backed up her phone once, back when she lost it on a flight and cried for 2 hours. I'd forgotten I still had the backup file. But opening it was like cracking into a time capsule of self-delusion. There they were. Messages between her and Chase. Code names. Heart emojis. One thread simply titled Game Night that started with Bring Wine and ended with Don't Forget the Handcuffs. She even sent him a picture of the two of us once. Caption, Can't believe I have to sleep next to this tonight. That one hit differently. But again, no rage. No blood boiling. Just clarity. You don't rage at a fire after the house is already ashes. You rebuild. Or you start drawing blueprints for something new entirely. Matt came over that weekend with a case of beer and the quiet understanding of a man who knows grief has no script. I need a favor, I told him. He didn't even blink. Shovel or alibi? I laughed for the first time in days. No, nothing dramatic. Yet, just information. I want to know everything about him. Where he works. Who he's hurt. What he's hiding. Matt nodded. You want dirt. I want foundation, I said. Something solid to stand on before I decide what kind of man I need to be next. 3 days later, he handed me a folder. Your boy Chase, Matt said, has a few skeletons. Divorce in Florida. Restraining order that never quite made it to court. And he's got some shady stock plays that smell like insider trading, if you ask me. I flipped through the pages. There were names. There were dates. There were screenshots. Suddenly, Chase wasn't a man anymore. He was a project. And I'm good with projects. I started small. An anonymous tip to the company he worked for about the trading activity. Then a message to his ex-wife, who still had an axe to grind and apparently a voice that carried well online. A month passed. Chase's name popped up on a few forums. Not big yet. Just smoke. Then one afternoon, a buddy of mine who works in compliance sent me a message. Your guy's being looked at. SEC, quietly. But it's real. And that was the first time I smiled without bitterness. Not because I ruined him, but because I didn't have to. All I had to do was nudge the first domino. The rest would fall with gravity. A few weeks later, she called. Blocked number. Logan, she said, voice tight. Did you do something? To what? I asked, sipping coffee like we weren't living in a slow-burning thriller. To Chase. He's being investigated. His firm put him on leave. He's freaking out. I paused. Why would I do that? Because you're angry. I let that hang in the air for a beat too long. No, I'm focused. She started to say something else, then stopped. Silence filled the space between us like fog. I made a mistake, she whispered. That's the line they all come back with eventually. But I wasn't looking for apologies. I was looking for peace. You didn't make a mistake, I said. You made a choice. And then I hung up. A funny thing happens when you stop reacting and start planning. People underestimate you. They think silence means surrender. But I wasn't quiet because I was broken. I was quiet because I was busy. After I hung up on her, I sat back and took a long breath. Then I opened a new notebook and started a fresh list titled Loose Ends. Because that's what she had left in her wake, unfinished threads, things she thought I'd never tug. And I planned to tug every single one. The first was the car. She'd been driving it since the split. A sleek little number I bought after a promotion. Said she loved the way it hugged corners, like it was built for her. Turns out, it was leased in my name. Of course it was. So I had it reclaimed. Quietly. No warning, no message. Just a flatbed and a signature. She called again. This time, she didn't block the number. Did you seriously repo my car? She snapped. Correction, I said. I repoed my car. You were just borrowing it while you auditioned for a different life. She cursed under her breath, and I heard it, that little crack in the confidence. That's when you know the power's shifting. Next, the joint account. I'd already transferred what was legally mine. Left just enough to keep her guessing. Then I closed it entirely. Sent her the paperwork with a post-it that said, New Beginnings, remember? Matt said I was being petty. Maybe I was. But sometimes, pettiness is just as wearing a smaller jacket. A week later, I bumped into Paul. Remember him? The friend who cheered on her public display of betrayal at the club? Yeah, that Paul. I saw him outside the gym, pretending to be surprised I was still upright and clothed. Hey, Logan, he said, voice slick like butter on a bad steak. Long time. I gave him a nod that could have frozen soup. Didn't know snakes lifted weights. He smirked. Come on, man. You know how these things go. She wasn't happy. Chase makes her laugh. Chase also makes fraudulent trades, I said, eyes locked on his. But hey, everyone's got a hobby. His grin faltered. I stepped closer. You sat there and watched her humiliate me. So here's how it works now, Paul. You and I, we don't exist in the same reality. If I see you again, I'll forget I'm the reasonable one. He didn't answer. Didn't need to. 2 nights later, Matt and I sat in his garage over beers, watching a football game neither of us cared about. She's calling again, I told him. Leaving long voicemails. Crying in the last one. Regret. Huh. He said. Always shows up late to the party. She said she's scared. Matt raised an eyebrow. Of you. I shook my head. Of him. Chase is unraveling. She says he's angry. Says he blames her for the scrutiny. She's not wrong, Matt muttered. But she's also not your problem. That's the part I'm working on. Matt gave me a look. You planning something stupid? No, I said. I'm planning something smart. The next morning, I mailed a manila envelope to Chase's office anonymously, of course. Inside were copies of every message he'd sent to my wife while they were together, and one interesting email thread between him and his supervisor, lightly hinting at some trading tips she gave him after hours. I didn't doctor anything. Didn't need to. I just added context. Sometimes truth, when served chilled, hits harder than any lie. The fallout started slowly. A freeze on his work laptop. An unplanned audit. Then, 2 weeks later, a headline on a finance site I'd bookmarked. Private wealth manager placed on leave amid ethics investigation. I printed it, framed it, hung it in my home office like a diploma. She texted that night. You've made your point. Can we talk now? I stared at the message like it was a mosquito on a window pane. Then I blocked the number. One night, I was walking through the old part of town when I passed a coffee shop where we had our first date. The place hadn't changed much. Same chalkboard menu. Same scratchy jazz playlist. For a second, I felt something familiar tug at my chest. But it wasn't nostalgia. It was freedom. Because I could stand outside that place and feel nothing tethering me to the past anymore. The version of me who sat in there 10 years ago, starry-eyed and optimistic, was gone. But in his place was someone sharper, wiser, more dangerous. Then came the call I wasn't expecting. Matt again. Hey, he said. Just a heads up. I saw her at the office. She asked about you. Why? She said she wants to see you. One last conversation. I didn't answer right away. Just stared at the ceiling. What do you want me to tell her? Matt asked. I smiled. Tell her Logan's gone, I said. He moved on. The best part about starting over is that you get to choose what you keep and what you burn. I didn't burn the wedding photos. I boxed them, taped the lid shut, and slid it to the back of the closet like a time capsule marked, never open. Not because I missed her, but because it's good to remember where you came from when you're building something new. A month passed. The call stopped. The drama died down. Chase's situation got worse. Word spread that he was under review for possible disbarment from financial services altogether. Someone even leaked a screenshot from an internal memo. Mr. Donovan's judgment has been called into question. My phone buzzed that night. Blocked number again. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Logan, she said, voice low, like a confession whispered in a church pew. I'm sorry. I let silence answer her. I know you don't owe me anything, she continued, but I didn't know it would end like this. I didn't know he'd change. Still, I said nothing. I made a mistake. There it was again. That tired phrase. Like infidelity was a wrong turn on the highway, and she just needed directions back. I'm scared of him now. He's angry all the time. He drinks. He said if I leave him, he'll ruin me. She paused. I need your help. That's when I spoke. Funny. That's what he said at dinner. That I could leave quietly, or face him like a man. She didn't respond. You chose him, I added. You chose that man in his world. Now you want me to clean up your mess. Her voice cracked. I don't know what else to do. You could start, I said, by understanding this isn't a story where the betrayed husband rides in like a white knight. Another long pause. Then, quietly, please. I didn't hang up, but I didn't agree either. The next morning, I went in my storage unit. Inside was a box labeled, Work. Underneath invoices and tax files was an old digital recorder I hadn't touched in years. See, back when I was building my business, I recorded everything. Meetings, pitches, client calls, out of habit, and caution. And somewhere in those files was a call between Chase and one of my old clients, the same client he tried to poach. I remembered that call, because he mentioned something about insider info. I got a tip, he said. This one's not public yet. Back then, I let it go. Figured it was puffed up broker talk. Now it sounded like Exhibit A. I found the file, converted it, cleaned the audio, sent it anonymously to the same firm already investigating him. No threats, no blackmail, just facts. Let the system do what it was built to do for once. A week later, she showed up at my office. I don't know how she knew I'd be there. Maybe Matt told her. Maybe she just guessed. Either way, she stood in the doorway looking like the aftermath of a fire, dressed well, but nothing left burning behind her eyes. 5 minutes, she said. That's all I'm asking. I didn't invite her in. She came anyway. I'm not here to beg, she began, setting her purse down like she used to when she'd visit for lunch. I stayed silent. I know I broke something sacred. I know what I did can't be undone. But I didn't know who he really was. I tilted my head. Didn't you? She looked away. I thought I was chasing something real. Something new. I thought, maybe the spark we lost. Maybe it was my fault. It was. That caught her off guard. I stopped chasing you, she said. And when someone else ran toward me, I ran too. And when you got caught, I said, you remembered where home was. She swallowed hard. You want forgiveness? I asked. No, she whispered. Just understanding. I stood, walked to the door, and opened it. Here's something to understand, I said. I don't hate you. Not anymore. But I don't trust you. And I never will. You're not the same person I married. I know. And I'm not the same man you left. She nodded. Then she walked out. The final nail came a month later. An industry journal posted the headline. Donovan banned from financial services after ethics violation. The article detailed the internal audit, the tip-off, the tapes. I didn't smile, but I slept better that night than I had in months. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I disagree. Revenge is best served slow, served through silence, through dignity, through letting someone destroy themselves while you rebuild yourself quietly across the street. And when they look across, hoping to see the man they broke, all they see is someone they can't reach anymore. Not because he's angry, but because he's done. Life didn't go back to normal. It got better. Because once you've had the ground ripped out from under you, anything solid feels like a miracle. I moved into a new place, smaller, quieter, with no haunted corners. No memories in the walls. The kind of place where silence wasn't a warning, just peace. My mornings became routine again. Black coffee. Morning run. I took calls from new clients. Business grew. It's funny how people are drawn to a man who's clearly been through something and didn't fall apart. They call it resilience. I just call it survival with posture. One afternoon, Matt dropped by with 2 coffees and a grin like he'd just read the last page of a thriller. You hear about them? He asked. Who? Your ex and Chase. Cops got called to their place. Neighbors said there was shouting, broken glass. No arrests, yet, but apparently it's been happening a lot. I raised an eyebrow. And she left him. Finally. Word is she's living with her sister now. Filed for a restraining order. I didn't say anything, because I didn't need to. Some fires burn out. Others turn the house to ash. Weeks later, a letter showed up in my mailbox. No return address. But I recognized the handwriting. Inside was a single page. No apology. No excuse. Just honesty. She wrote that she thought she'd found something real with Chase, only to discover he was a mirror held up to all her worst instincts. That her freedom felt more like floating with no anchor. That her choices didn't feel like wins, just loud ways to delay loneliness. And then, this line. You weren't perfect, but you were real. And I didn't know the value of that until I traded it for performance. I read it once. Then I fed it through the shredder. Some chapters end in fire. Others deserve a clean page. It's been a year. The man she left? Gone. The man she hoped would save her? Gone too. And me? I'm still here. Just not in the way I was before. There's no triumphant music. No grand speeches. Just a guy who walks taller, laughs more often, and keeps the door locked, not because he's afraid, but because he finally learned what to let in. People ask me if I do anything differently. I say no. Because without her betrayal, I'd still be playing house in a home built on denial. Sometimes you have to lose everything you thought mattered to find what actually does. And revenge? Turns out, the best kind is never needing it again.